Join me today as we create sewing magic by transforming your little boy's wardrobe with these super cute, unique details and very minimal effort. Hey everyone, welcome back to another week and another video. I'm actually really excited about the video this week. It's something that I have gotten comments on, so I'm really excited to share it with you. But before we get into the video, I just wanted to take a second and say thank you so much to everyone who has joined the channel, subscribed, commented on videos. I have really enjoyed getting to interact with everyone in that dynamic, and it's been really awesome just to see the channel grow and to, I guess, fulfill the vision that I had for the channel. That's been really neat to see. So if you are watching today and you like the video, consider hitting the thumbs up button and liking the video, and also consider subscribing if you don't already. And with all that being said, let's go ahead and get right into the video. Okay, so hopefully you will all be able to focus. I'm really sorry, I've been sick and I'm mostly over it, I think, but except for the nose that could probably guide Santa's sleigh tonight. So hopefully we're able to look past that, and we're just gonna work with what we have here today. So hopefully that's not a distraction for you all. A few videos ago, I did a video on adding like ruffles and gathers, things like that for girls' outfits. Today, we're gonna be talking all about the boys. So I'm gonna show you my 3 favorite things that I do with boys' outfits that require very minimal effort, but make a very big impact. And little backstory, when I was pregnant with my 3rd child, I think, my 3rd boy, there were 5, I want to say, ladies in my church, and we were all pregnant at the same time, and we were all pregnant with boys, and we were all due within like 2 months of each other. So there was like this onslaught of baby boys all at the same time in our church. And I live in a very small town. We don't have specialty baby stores, Babies R Us, Bye Bye Baby, things like that. If you want baby clothes, you're either ordering on Amazon or you're shopping at Walmart or you're shopping at Target. So I knew with everybody having a baby boy all at the same time that there was a very high likelihood that our babies were going to be dressed in similar outfits, which not a big deal at all, right? But you know that I like to create unique and fun things. So I started thinking about things that I could do to dress up or change up my baby boy's wardrobe a little bit, just so that it wasn't exactly the same as everybody else's. Because if I'm from the same small town, they're from the same small town, and we were all going to be buying our baby boy outfits and clothes from either Walmart or Target. So it was likely that they were going to end up in the same outfits. So I started thinking about just small ways that I could dress up and change up and make my baby's clothes a little bit more unique. And so that's what I'm sharing with you today. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about today is a button placket. Don't be scared. It's not going to be real. We're not going to have to sew on buttons. It is a faux placket, F-A-U-X. That means fake. It's just going to be for decoration. But let me tell you, it really dresses up your baby boy's outfit. And it just looks really cute, and it doesn't take much effort at all. So let's dive right in. Okay, so I'm starting today with just a blank onesie here that I just bought at the store. And then for the snap placket, I'm just going to take a piece of fabric. This is my piece of fabric here. For your fabric, you want to go ahead, and it's about 3 inches wide. And then mine is almost 5.5 inches long. Of course, you can make this to your specifications. I just kind of measured the front of my onesie and figured out how far down I wanted my snap placket to go. And you can make it a little bit shorter and just do 2 buttons. You can make it longer. Of course, I'm making the longer one. I'm going to do 3 buttons on mine. So you can, again, personalize it to however you would like to do yours. So we're just going to lay it right here, and it is going to be about the size that I want it to be. So this is going to be perfect for me. So you're going to need your measured piece of fabric, and then you're also going to want a piece of fusible interfacing. In the description, I will link the interfacing that I use and that I love. And I'm going to cut this out just a little bit smaller than I cut my placket. You can see it's just a little bit smaller. And then once I have my interfacing and my placket cut out of the fabric, I'm going to go ahead and iron my interfacing onto the fabric, just like so. Okay, so my fusible interfacing has a side where it's textured. If you feel it, it feels like little dots, little textures. That textured side is going to go against my fabric, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and iron that interfacing right on my fabric. Okay, just like that, right? And it's ironed right on there, and now we're going to finish our placket. Okay, so you'll see in the link that I put in the description, but the fusible interfacing I'm using is actually a lightweight. There are different weighted fusible interfacings. There's the light, the medium, and the heavyweight. So for the snap placket, I'm just using the lightweight. And then once we get that ironed on, you're just going to fold your corners in. I'm folding mine in about 1/2 inch. I'm going to do this all the way around. I'm going to do both sides, and then I'm also going to fold my bottom and just go ahead and iron those right in place. Okay, so I have my edges all ironed here so that they will hopefully stay in place. The next thing I'm going to do before I attach the placket, so this is what it's going to look like when it's all finished. I need to take this store-bought onesie, and I need to seam rip right along the neckline here just a little bit, because I'm actually going to lift up this neckline and I'm going to insert the snap placket right under the neckline, and then I'm just going to sew it right back down. So I'm just going to seam rip right along the neckline just enough so that I'll be able to insert my snap placket right up in there. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. So it looks like we seam ripped enough. I'm able to fit my snap placket right up underneath the neck binding. So what I like to do to make sure I get the snap placket in the right spot, like in the middle, is of course, if you want to measure, go ahead and measure. I like something a little bit more visual. So I will typically just take my onesie and fold it right in half. And then I just iron right down here, and it gives me this nice crease right in the middle of my onesie. And so that's how I know exactly where I need the snap placket to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and iron that and give myself a nice crease. All right, so you can see I have my nice creased fold right there. That's the middle of my bodysuit. Then I took my button placket and I folded it in half, and I'm just going to lay it right along that crease, and then I'm going to unfold it so that my creases should line up here, and that'll help me to visually see exactly where I need this placket to lay. I'm going to line my placket crease up with the crease on my bodysuit, and that's how I know that it's going to be right in the center. Okay, so all that we're going to do now is we're going to move this up under the binding, just like that. And then once you get it tucked up under the binding, we're going to go to the sewing machine, and you're just going to stitch all around the perimeter of your button placket, and then later we'll stitch this part down. Okay? Okay, so we have the snap placket in place. I'm going to go ahead and pin it so that it stays. You can see my mid crease here is lined up with the mid crease on my bodysuit, so that means it should be centered nicely. And you can kind of see at the top in the neckband, like this is the binding that I seam ripped. This is my snap placket. I pulled it up through the binding, and we'll sew this in place. And then when we're finished, we'll trim off the excess and sew the binding back down in place. So for right now, I'm just going to pin this guy right in place. and then we will get it sewn right on the bodysuit. You guys know I have to use my purple pins. I have 1,000 color pins, and I actually go through the whole bin and pick out the purple ones and just use those. It's so funny. So I always have them on top because they're the ones I pick out to use. All right, and then I'm just gonna stagger over here. Make sure we are pinned really well. All right, and then once we get all pinned, we're gonna go ahead and sew this in place. Okay, so now for sewing this in place, you want to remember you're only sewing through one layer of fabric on the bodysuit, not two. So the easiest way to make sure that we don't go through both layers is just go ahead and unsnap your bodysuit. And if your sewing machine has the free arm capability, or you're able to remove so that you have a smaller work surface here, that might actually be easier because once you pull that off, then I can just kind of slide the bodysuit right over that. And then we make sure that we're only sewing through one layer of fabric versus two. All right, so let's go ahead and get everything all set up. And then we are just sewing right around the perimeter, but you do not need to sew the top. Okay, so you're sewing 3 sides here, just with a normal straight stitch on your sewing machine. All right, we're all done sewing this guy on. We have our still our binding that we're gonna sew down. So I'm gonna change the thread to a gray thread in my sewing machine, and then I'm just gonna fit this binding. If you have extra fabric here from your placket, you can go ahead and cut that off if you want. If you don't have that much extra, you might just want to fold it down and kind of fit your binding right back over top. And then I'm just going to follow the stitch lines that are already there from when this was sewn together initially, and we're just going to stitch this binding right back down using gray thread, and you'll never even know that it was seam ripped or that you did something to it after the fact. All right, so if you want to go ahead and iron your placket just to give it that nice crisp finish, iron that down. Go ahead and trim any excess placket off on the inside if you want to do that, and then just fit your binding right down over top. And then again, just using a straight stitch and a 3.0 stitch length, I'm just going to follow both of these stitch lines, and I'm going to stitch that binding right back down. Okay, we're almost all done. We have the neck binding sewn in place. I am going to go ahead and give that a press or a steam. And the last thing we have to do is buttons. Okay, so we're ready to add buttons. You guys see my cute buttons here? These are the buttons. I'll actually link these buttons in the description because they're so cute. And they're literally, when I'm making toddler or infant clothing, these are the only buttons I will use. They're just so cute and they're so sturdy. And I love the size. They're perfect. So what I'm going to do with my buttons is I'm just going to, you can see I still have this crease here. So I'm going to lay my buttons along that crease, and I'm just going to sort of position them temporarily and make sure I have my spacing and everything correct. Right now I do not, but just for showing purposes here. And then whenever I get them spaced exactly how I want them, I'm just going to take a little marking pen and mark the holes of the buttons right onto the fabric. And then whenever I do buttons, I always hand sew. So I'm going to hand sew the buttons on. If you want to use your machine, if your machine has that capability, then awesome. Go ahead and use your machine. But I just hand sew them because it only takes a minute to hand sew them right on. Okay, so once we get those in place, then we'll take a little marker and we'll just mark where we want the buttons to be, and then we'll get those sewn right on. And our faux button placket is complete. And it's so cute. And it takes 10 minutes of your time. And it's just that small little detail that gives your baby boy's clothes just that extra little unique flair to it. And I just think it's such a cute, such a fun, such an easy way to really dress it up. I love doing that on my boys' onesies for church because it gave it that kind of dressy flair that I liked, but it was still very comfortable for them to wear because it still is a onesie. So it wasn't anything that was uncomfortable or really extra hot or anything like that. But super cute, super easy. And that was the first thing. And that was actually the hardest one. The other two we're going to talk about are even easier than that. So let's get right into number 2. All right. The second thing we're going to talk about today is actually something really, really simple, and that's just a little chest pocket. It adds a really cute little detail onto a onesie or a shirt or something like that, and it's really, really easy to do. Again, it's not functional. It's just a faux pocket that's going to go right on the chest, and we're actually going to just add it today to this cute little onesie, and it'll be really easy. So let's do it. Okay, so just like I did with the faux placket, on the pocket, I'm also going to use this heat and bond. It's the Fusible interfacing, and hopefully you guys can see it has like this textured shiny side. This is the side I'm going to iron against my fabric, but it just gives it a little bit more stability because it is such a small item. It gives it more stability when I'm sewing it so that it doesn't move all around when I'm sewing it, and it does make it look nicer in the end as well. So I will link this again in the description, and they do have like a light, a medium, and a heavy bond. So I'm using for this, I'm going to use the medium bond on the pocket piece just because, like I said, I want the pocket piece to have more stability as I'm sewing it. All right, so let's go ahead and get our pocket attached. Okay, so because I use pockets actually pretty regularly, I did make myself an actual pattern piece. I think I just use like cardstock, something a little bit heavier, just to give myself a pattern piece for cutting the pockets out. But if you only plan on doing it once or even twice and you don't want to make a pattern piece, you can just measure right on your fabric when you're cutting it out. So this is going to be my finished pocket piece. So it measures about 2.5 inches across, and then for your length, the length of your pocket, you want it to be about 3.5, 4 inches, something like that, because we are actually going to fold a portion of our pocket over like this at some point. So you want your finished pocket length to be about 3 inches. Okay, so 2.5 inches wide, and then between 3.5 and 4 inches long. Okay, so I have my cutout pocket piece here, and then I have my cutout piece of heat and bond right here, and we are going to get this attached to our onesie. So the first thing that we want to do here is we're going to take our pocket piece, and I'm going to fold it over about 2 inches, just like this, and then I'm just going to go ahead and iron that in place. And then just as kind of a little decorative thing, I will fold that over and then just go ahead and put a top stitch right along here, and it just kind of gives it a little decorative finish to it. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll go ahead and attach it to the onesie. All right, so I folded the top part of the pocket piece over, and I'm not sure if you can see my stitching lines here, but I just did 2 lines of stitching. Just gives it kind of a decorative stitch. You can see it better on the back. All right, and then once I do the stitching, I'm just gonna take my iron and give that a good press just to keep everything in place and make sure it's all nice and even and looks good. And then next we're going to add the Fusible interfacing. So I'm going to take the shiny textured side and I'm going to put that down against my pocket. Now when I put this down, I'm not going to cover the whole pocket. I'm going to actually start it like right here. So this little portion of my pocket piece is still going to be without the interfacing. All right, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and iron that right onto my pocket. All right, once we get the interfacing ironed onto our pocket piece, we're just gonna go ahead and cut around the pocket piece so that the interfacing is the same size as our pocket piece. Okay, the pocket piece is all cut out. I have the interfacing on the bottom portion of the pocket on the back. And the really cool thing about this interfacing is I'm going to peel this back part off just like a sticker, stick it in place where I want to iron the pocket or where I want to sew the pocket on, and it will help keep it right in place as I sew. Let me show you what I mean there. All right, so the really cool thing about this heat and bond is you can, once you get it ironed on, you can just peel this part off like a sticker, and you can see that it's kind of shiny right here. That will actually give you a nice little glue effect when you place it on your fabric, as long as you iron over it. So I'm just going to place this wherever I want to sew the pocket. I think here looks pretty good. And then I'm gonna iron that right in place, and it's gonna hold it right there while I sew this pocket on. All right, we have our pocket piece ironed right on. So it's not like super sticky, but you can see like, now remember I don't have interfacing on the top part, so that top part is kind of peeling away, but like here, it's not coming off. That's gonna stay while I sew it, and it's so much easier than trying to use pins. So again, when you're sewing the pocket on, just remember you're only sewing through one layer of fabric. So you want to again unbutton the buttons at the bottom of your onesie and just make sure you're sewing through only one layer of fabric. And we are just going to sew the perimeter of the pocket, but we are not sewing the top part. We are only sewing around the sides here. Okay, so let's do that, and then I'll be right back with you. All right, and once again, I'm just using a regular straight stitch, and my stitch length is 3.0, and let's get this guy sewn right on. Okay, here's our pocket. I just need to trim off the little edges of my thread there, and I'm gonna go ahead and give this a quick press just to hold it in place. This little bit of purple you see at the bottom was my marking pen, but it is washable, so the first time I wash the onesie, that purple will come right out. It's disappearing, but it's water soluble. So let's go ahead and get all these little edges trimmed, and I'm gonna give this a quick press, and then we'll look at our final product. All right, and our pocket's all done. Adorable. Now, in case you were wondering why I did not put the fusible interfacing on the top and I kind of left the top open, well, let me let you in on a little secret. You see, these little pockets are really great for clipping these things when you have a baby. And I found that out. I did these pockets, one time I did one of these pockets, and I used fusible interfacing all the way to the top, and it still looked really cute, but I was like, you know what? If I could like leave that open, and then, you know, when my baby's wearing it and he's using a passy, I can just clip the pacifier clip right on that little pocket. And it's super handy, as well as cute, as well as easy. How easy was that? So you guys, I'm all about like things looking cute and unique, but if it can also be functional, win-win. Am I right? So it's super cute, and it adds so much to like any outfit, but not only that, it's just really, really functional as well. All right, so the pocket was our second cute idea that we can add to boys' clothes. And so now we're going to talk about number 3. So our number 3 unique detail that we're going to talk about today is a bow tie. This is probably the easiest of all 3, but it really makes such a big impact, at least in my opinion. And the way we are going to do it today is going to be great because you're going to be able to mix and match with so many different outfits, and it's going to be so cute. Okay, so to start with our bow tie, we are going to cut 2 pieces of fabric. So bear with me and let me get you those measurements. All right, so for our bow tie, we are going to cut 2 pieces of fabric. We have our main piece of fabric. This is going to measure 8.5 by 6.5. And then we have a thinner piece of fabric. This is going to be the middle part of our bow tie, and this is going to measure 2 by 3. So we're going to cut those 2 pieces of fabric. For this, I do not use fusible interfacing. If you choose to do that to give it a little bit more of a more structure or a little bit of a stiffer structure, that is totally fine. It's not going to ruin the integrity of the bow tie. It may even make it look cuter. I don't even know. But I'm not using fusible interfacing on mine. Feel free. If you're going to use it for yours, I would probably use a lightweight or a medium weight. The heavy weight may make it a little too thick for you to cinch the bow tie together. So totally up to you. But for today's video, I'm not going to use interfacing at all. All right, so we have our 2 pieces of fabric cut out. Let's go ahead and make our bow tie. All right, so for the bow tie, we're going to take our main fabric piece. It's 8.5 by 6.5, and we are going to fold it so that our short edges are together just like this. And then we're just gonna sew right along this short edge. Okay, so you guys can see I stitched right along that short edge there. And then once I stitch that, I'm just gonna go ahead and turn that inside out. And I am actually going to keep the stitched edge kind of right in the middle, just like that. And then I'm going to give this a quick press with my iron. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Here we go. So we just quick press that. So we're all set. And I'm going to keep that main piece of fabric just like this. And now I'm going to move on to my smaller piece of fabric, the 2 by 3. I didn't cut this one very straight, so I'm gonna trim up my edges just to make that a little straighter. But for this one, for the main piece of fabric, we sewed the short edges together. For this part, for the middle piece of fabric, we're going to sew the long edges together. So here's a short edge, here's a short edge. We're gonna leave that. We are going to sew right here along this long edge. And then I'm gonna turn it inside out just like I did with the main piece of fabric. And then I'm also going to go ahead and give this a press, okay? So let's go ahead and sew it and then steam it real quick and then we'll be back. All right, and this is our middle piece then. We stitched the long edge together. I turned it right side out and then I just gave it a quick press. All right, so we're all set for the rest of the bow tie. Okay, so now I'm just gonna take the main piece of my fabric and I have the seam on the back, so that's facing me. And then I'm just gonna kind of squish up the middle, just sort of like this, squish it together. And then once I get it squished together, I'm just gonna take a little piece of thread and I'm gonna wrap it around that middle piece and tie it just to keep this squished while I apply the middle piece to it. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. Let me cut off a piece of thread here. And it doesn't have to be a long piece of thread. This is basically just going to be a placeholder for you as you attach the middle piece. So here, I'll show you what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm just gonna squish this up. And you'll see it's starting to take the shape of a bow tie or a bow. And we'll just kind of, you know, fan that all out, make it look nice. And then I just take my thread piece that I just cut off and I'll just like wrap it around the middle here just a few times just to give the middle the cinched look. It looks kind of funky right now, but I promise it will look good when you're done. All right, so we're just gonna do that. So you can see now it kind of has the shape of a bow. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut, or not cut the thread, I'm gonna tie the thread on the back to keep it in place and then I'll cut the edges off. So let's go ahead and flip our bow tie over, tie these pieces of thread together here. And this should just keep it right in place. All right, well, that didn't work, did it? Okay, there we go. So we'll tie that nice and tight, and that'll give our bow a little bit of cinch. There we go. And then I'm just gonna cut these thread tails right off. Okay, and we have the bow tie. All right, so once our thread tails are all cut off, then we're ready to attach the middle piece. So the middle piece, I'm actually going to put it on with the wrong side facing out. I'm gonna put it just right around the middle part here. And I'm going to just kind of fan it out right like that. How cute. And then what I'm gonna do is take it over to the sewing machine, and I'm just gonna throw a stitch right along there to hold this in place, and I'll trim off the extra. And then once I do that, then I'm just going to turn this piece right side out once I already have that stitch in place. All right, so let's go ahead and stitch it, and then I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so here we go. I just went ahead and straight stitched right along there. And now all this extra at the end, I'm just gonna snip right off, but I'm gonna be careful not to snip where I just sewed. And then I can just take this middle piece and turn it right side out so that you can't see the seam. And if you have any extra stray threads hanging around, just go ahead and snip those off. Okay, so I think we got it all the way turned out. Okay, and then our bow tie is complete. Now all we need to do is attach it to our bodysuit. All right, so now this is the genius part with the bow tie. We're going to attach the bow tie to our bodysuit using a snap. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set my bow tie aside for a second, and I am using these cute little snaps. They are long prong snaps that I used to get them from Snap Source, but I think they went out of business. So Cam Snaps sells them. I'll link in the description for you. But we're actually going to attach the piece of snap to our bodysuit first. Now, before you do that, I am going to actually take a small piece of fusible interfacing, and I'm just gonna iron it on the inside of my bodysuit. That way I can just really make sure that the snap is not gonna come through or like rip the fabric at all or anything like that when I'm using it. So I'm just gonna cut a small piece of fusible interfacing and iron it right on the inside of my bodysuit. All right, so hopefully you guys can see I just ironed a little piece of fusible interfacing right there, and that's just gonna give my snap a little bit more security. All right, so on this part, now I do have a snap press because I have a shop that I sell, and so I use snaps a ton. If you are not sewing to sell, chances are you don't have a snap press. So for my snaps, I just got this handy dandy little, I think it's a Dritz tool on Amazon, and again, I'll link it if you're interested, but it's really, really awesome. It just uses this little tool and a hammer to hammer your snaps on. And before I got a snap press, probably for like 3 years, I've used this tool, and never once have I had a snap come off. Never in 3 years. So this tool, along with a hammer, is really awesome. And I'm just gonna show you. So we are going to use this part of the snap. It's going to be the one with the prong sticking up. And then we're going to use a backing piece with all the little prongs sticking up. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick my little prong piece right in there. And then we're going to put it on our fabric like so, lined up right in there. And we're gonna bring this guy down like that. So you can see right in this little hole, that's where my snap's gonna go. So now I'm gonna take this other piece with the prong, and I'm just gonna sit it right in there and then pull this down until you kind of hear it click in place, and then I'm just going to hammer that snap right in place. I usually do about 10 hammers, but that might be overkill, but 10 seems to work really well. All right, so you guys can see I have that snap piece hammered right on, right where my fusible interfacing was on the back, so it has a little bit more stability. And then the other piece of the snap is actually going to go on our bow tie. So I'm just going to take my middle piece and slide it right off, just like that. And then this snap is just going to go right on my bow tie piece, just like this. All right, so let's get this guy all set up. We're gonna take our little tool. We're gonna put our backing piece in there again. Oops, dropped off. Put our backing piece right in there, just like that. And we are going to slide our little piece right over that. All right, so we have our snap right underneath. Hopefully you guys can like see it's under there. And we have this guy right here, so we're just gonna pull this down, and then we're gonna put our snap here. Now there's one side of this snap that's like really smooth. That's the side that's gonna go down, okay, right inside like that. You can see the middle of this has like little parts sticking up. That's the part that you want facing out. And then we're just gonna close that up. And again, we're gonna go hammer it about 10 times, and that'll keep your snap right in place. So just pull that right on. Now, if you're hammering snaps, be very careful that you don't hammer your finger. It hurts. Ask me how I know. All right, there we go. So we have our bow tie with the snap on the back, and guess what we now can do? Voila! And we have a cute little bow tie that we can snap right on our onesie. And our bow tie is finished. How adorable is that? It is so easy. And let me just tell you, the best part, when it is time to wash the onesie, you just pull off your little bow tie and throw the onesie in the laundry. And then when you want to wear it again, you can pull out your bow tie. Now, the other awesome thing about this is it takes probably 5 minutes maybe to make a bow tie, right? Without the step-by-step tutorial, you're just, pushing them out yourself. It'll probably take you about 5 minutes. You can make 5 different bow ties, and you can just snap them right on whenever you wear the outfit. So you can completely mix and match and have, it's gonna look like you just made your baby boy 5 different outfits when all you really did is spent 5 minutes making a bow tie and then just snapped it right on. Tell me that is not the most clever thing ever. I mean, when I started doing that, I was just like, oh, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. Something easy that I can do, something simple that makes a big impact. I love it, and I'm so here for it. So how did you guys do? Those are our 3 unique things that you can add to baby boy clothes just to really elevate the look of their outfits. But I'm super curious. Guys, let me know in the comments which one was your favorite. Which one are you excited to try? Maybe you've already tried some of these and you have stories about them as well. I'd love to hear those. But I really am so excited to hear which one you guys are the most excited about. And that's it for this week's video. So I really, really am very curious which one of those 3 things you are most excited about trying, whether it's the faux button placket or the bow tie or the pocket, because all 3 of them are tried and true. All 3 of them I've used myself, and I love them all 3. If I had to choose one, I would probably choose the button placket, but that one takes the longest, even though it still only takes 10 minutes to do. But I just really love them all. So I'm curious about everyone else's questions and comments. I think that I probably said I'll link it in the description at least 10 times in this video. So I will try to remember to link everything in the description that I used today. But if I do miss anything or there's anything specific you have questions about, just drop it in the comments and I'll make sure I get back to those. And that's it until next week. So until then, happy sewing!